Hello there and welcome to Shuttlebay 4. Previously we talked about the Jake Nog story on Deep Space Nine's The Ascent. This is the other half of the conversation where we talk about Odo and Quark, who crash land and fight for survival.
The Ascent, not as painful, I suppose, to a degree. It was climbing a mountain. What more do you want?
Wait, Steve's back on form, everybody. He didn't like this episode.
What I did like was the whole fact that Odo sort of tricked Quark into thinking he knew what he knew into, to try and get him to fess up. I thought that was a good moment. And let's face it was going to be Quark that saved them. It would have been too straight down the road for Odo to have been the hero in the situation. I mean, look, there's no point me waffling on about this. It was what it was. You forced me to watch it for the first time in years, and I was as disappointed this time as I was when I first watched it. So it shall remain on skip.
When it comes to Quark and Odo's relationship, I would have liked a bigger, chunkier episode than that, what we got. I don't know. It was a filler kind of episode material. So I can see where he's coming from that point of view. Well, thank you for
Thank you very much, Rush.
And it was interesting. It was set during a time where Odo is a solid. I thought they could have emphasized that a bit more.
Because solid or changeling, you're still a miserable, self-hating misanthrope.
Because it would have been nice when he had crash landed for him to have a good cut, and see some blood. They did eventually give him a little bit of a bump towards the end on it.
It did break his leg.
I know he broke his leg, but again, you didn't see anything. It was almost like, no, but the way he broke his leg, it was it just was so bendy like that. It felt like he was still a solid. He was still bendy,
I think he broke his leg.
But that's what it looked like. But it would have been nice, I think, when they crash landed. It was an obvious choice. Just give him a really good cut when he's bleeding from it, and it wouldn't have been life-threatening, but it would have been a real good. Oh look, Odo can be hurt, and we don't always realise that.
It's a predator thing, isn't it? If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah,
he is mortal.
Yeah,
You know
what else?
I should have remembered that brush when I smashed my femur in half. It's just a little knock. It'll be all right. Get over yourself.
Well, look, I'm just saying, give him a good gash. That's all.
Oh my!
Oh my!
Oh my!
Odo, so also when they're on the shuttlecraft together, him and Quark, shut up. He reads trashy, soft porn novels, and he reckons it's research, and it's like, come on, Odo, that's bullshit. And so I thought that was funny because Quark pulled the book out of his hand and was able to realise that. Yeah.
Quark, give me that. What are you going to do, arrest me?
And he was quite embarrassed by that. I thought most Odo overplayed emotions in this. And again, I thought, well, that's because he's a solid. You saw him take much more pleasure than usual out of winding Quark up. Even though he takes pleasure out of it, when he's Odo as a changeling, it's just still a poker face almost, and just a knowing, harumphful look.
Yeah.
Whereas with this one, it was proper. He was smiling sometimes and taking proper glee out of winding Quark up. So I thought that was quite funny. This could have been a big story for them. I think I read somewhere it was written because they had an idea that they wanted these two. You wanted to understand why do they kind of have this hate for each other, and they delved into that a little bit. But I thought it could have done that a bit better because it was short. When you realise how much this episode gave to that storyline, it wasn't a lot really. It's like half an episode.
One thing that he did mention, though, and I'm really glad to mention, he got mentioned twice. Quark mentions it at the Odo mentions it at the beginning, and Quark mentions it at the end, that they have basically known each other for 10 years. Because Odo says, I'm trying to get you for 10 years.
I've been waiting 10 years for you to get what you deserve.
And then later on, Quark says to Odo, you failed for 10 years to get hold of me.
You spent the last 10 years of your life trying to catch a nobody.
And I do think that it was really important to establish the fact that what we've seen on Deep Space Nine, their relationship goes way beyond that, to Terok Nor kind of days.
That was quite a hit, though. If I'm a loser, then you're the loser that's been chasing the loser.
That makes you a failure.
You tell me, which one of us is the bigger failure?
Yeah, because Odo takes ages thinking, the scene lasts on Odo, and he's a bit like, and then off he goes. So the end scene was them pairing in sickbay. And that was really funny because they are being honest with each other, that they really do hate each other, but they do it. And then they're able to laugh about it because it's, like Dan just said, they've got a relationship that's lasted 10 now plus years. And they just are those begrudging friends, you know what I mean? They are there for each other when they need to be there for each other, even though they would never want anybody to know that fact. And so I thought the end was quite nice. And it reminded me of a scene, no, well, weirdly it did, because there's a scene, I think, in War of the Roses. Do you know that film, the comedy film War of the Roses?
Yeah.
Kathleen Turner, yeah. Well, the end scene is like they're both dying on the floor, and he still thinks after they've warred, because they're a couple that has a divorce, that's basically the story, and he thinks in the end, oh, I know, but we're going to die together, so I'm just going to reach over and put my hand on you. And then the last scene is her reaching over with her hand, and you think, oh, she's going to put her hand on him, and she throws his hand away. And it was a bit like, it reminded me of that scene, because it's like giving you a hand and then going, one of them going, F off. I know.
So I didn't watch it. I didn't have time, but I do remember the episode. I do remember it. I do like this episode. I do like the. I don't remember the B story. I always listen to you guys. I don't really remember the Jake bit interesting me, but I do love the dynamics between Quark and Odo, and the fact he breaks his leg for the first time, and they got to work together, and they argue about who has the jacket, who about the trousers.
I get to wear the jacket,
but I get the trousers.
I loved all that. But that's all I can remember of it. It's not a memorable episode. I just remember the fact that they're outside, aren't they? Normally on Star Trek, they're always on the same quarry or the same desert.
Yeah.
I assume it's in the hills in California.
It was filmed, it was filmed properly high up as well, I think. 14,000 feet on one of the mountains in California.
Anything with Quark and Odo arguing or fighting, that comedy duo, I love it.
Yeah.
I find it hard to hate an episode because I when I watch Star Trek, I buy into it. I'm literally in that zone. Whatever happens, it happens. If I don't like it, I'll move on. And I immerse myself in the world. So it takes a lot for me to go, I hate that. I know a lot of faults. I can't even watch an episode like some of you guys and really critique this. I can't do. I try. I can't look for any faults. I just like I'm in there. I'm in the story and.
But even Shades of Grey.
But again, if it's an episode I really don't like, I won't watch it again. And there's not many of them.
It's not a skip episode, and Steve's driven me to drink with that comment.
You really didn't need pushing far, did you?
No, not very far. Oh no. One could say I already had it open.
That glass looks massive. Have you just got little?
I was just performing a service, John. You're very welcome.
I love anything with Odo and Quark, and it's just brilliant. It just makes me laugh. And as I've said in my previous section, it's it reminds me of some of my best friendships are like that. Like it's a very, very love-hate antagonistic relationship, and that's fantastic. Because as long as the concern is there, when something serious happens, and it's just when the other person's doing your head, and you're like, oh, just go away. I hate you so much. And then like something happens, you're like, oh my God, mate, are you all right? Give me a call if you need me. It's fantastic. I like the idea of it being outside for once, and quite a vast scene as well, even though you only see little bits of it. It's not often you get to see that. And at least it's not TNG where everything's just green or pink. That really does my head in. So it's nice to see some actual background scenery. I like the bit in the shuttle, as well, where there's just the interaction between them, and it's like, don't tell me, and he don't believe him, and then he opens it up, and it's like, oh, would you guess it? There's a bomb.
It's a bomb.
But the bit at the end where Odo's in the middle of making the log, well, I'd be surprised he didn't bloody make it. That's his final comment is, well, there's a surprise. And then he gets beamed up.
I can't say I'm surprised.
And he goes, oh no. It's like, where's Quark? And it's like, yeah, they never found you without Quark. And it's like, oh, fuck. Just beam me back down.
Looks like he saved both of your lives.
I was afraid you'd say that.
That is such a good, because Quark has got that over him forever now. And part of me thinks that Odo would rather have just died.
Yeah, and that's the interaction that I really like, and then he just passes out. I think that's really good. Like, oh no, and then I think that's pretty much it.
It's not even relieved. It shows no like relief at being saved. It's just, oh, fuck's sake, you know.
Yeah.
Love it. It's for anything to do with, like John Jones, anything to do with Odo and Quark. You know it's going to be funny. You just know it's going to be funny. Odo try to find out what they're going there for, and he finds out he's a witness. And straight away you can tell he's just absolutely pissed off that he's just taking him for a witness.
I'm a witness.
And then when he finds the bomb, and he's taking the piss out of him, going,
it's a bomb.
And it's,
He does do that as well, doesn't he?
And I remember now it's a fucking bomb, and then they open it up and there's a bomb. And he says, direct it through the transporter buffers.
But at least try and channel the explosion to the transporter buffer.
And when they crash land, it's like, we've only got 2 rations. They all got blown up. Well, that got blown up. Well, I found this jacket. Where's the other one? Oh, that got blown up.
It didn't seem to be that much of an explosion.
It didn't. And it was nice to see.
It's a very specific, just take out the survival gear.
That's what the transporter buffer must do. It must suck it in and throw it in the storage compartment and everything.
I know. Destroyed in the explosion.
Well, it's like when he's walking on the mountain, he's trying to look for beetles, and they've been walking for 3 days. There's no beetles, there's no slugs, there's no snails, there's just rocks.
No slugs, no beetles, no worms, no snails, nothing but rocks.
And trees. And we can't eat them.
I love
And it was just funny all the way through it. Do you know what? I could have sat and watched a full episode of that, pissing me sides. Pissing me sides. When he falls over and he breaks his bendy leg. Because I forgot that he was human now. He was a solid.
I did.
I completely forgot, because when he walked up and he was eating that super thing, he's doing that trick again.
Yeah.
But then when Quark started going, well, you are one of us now, I was like, oh shit, yeah.
It was the jacket. It was the jacket for me. I was like, just make your own jacket. What's wrong with you? And I was like, oh yeah.
Well, it's like and then after that, it's when you see him walking off, and he's got the pants on and he's got the jacket on, and he says, "Yeah, well, I gave it you under duress."
Yeah.
You agreed to take turns.
Under duress.
Now, I love this episode. Anything, like I said, Quark and Odo. It's funny. Steve.
Gold. Just gold.
It's just gold.
No, I did enjoy that relationship. That dynamic at any time on my screen, I know I'm safe. I know I'm in safe hands. I know I'm going to enjoy it. I don't have to think about it. I'm just going to love it.
And you know it's coming because they are literally marooned, on an unknown M-class planet somewhere.
Oh, it's an L-class. It was an L-class planet.
Yeah, L-class, yeah.
I'm picking up a Class L planet.
It just had poisonous trees, poisonous rocks, no beetles, no
slugs.
Girl.
Yeah. In this episode, you do realise the kind of muck Ferengis like to eat as well, because
Romany snails.
Extra shells. Yeah, I love that bit where Quark goes, "What's that? What is that?" and runs over and he picks up the stone. It's not a beetle.
What's that over there?
It's just another stone.
And then he's like, "Doesn't have to be a big beetle, just a little bit of meat on it." Beetle meat. I mean, really?
Any kind of beetle, just as long as it had a little meat on it.
Slugo cola.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my God.
It had me laughing all the way through with that kind of stuff. Quark really had me going. He really, really did. You know those people that when the going gets tough and they whinge, and you can't help but laugh at their whinging.
Yeah.
Because they do it. And even when it's sincere whinging, and they're like, what did he say? These aren't rations. These are crumbs. And you can't climb a mountain with crumbs. I pissed myself.
These are crumbs. You can't climb a mountain on crumbs.
I'm dying.
He says, I see you watching Marnie.
And he does, do you know what? He does kind of do like a reverse psychology thing with Odo right at the beginning to try and get him to open up and play cards with him and have a laugh and all of that. Like, you're one of us now. And he does kind of say, you've always wanted this, embrace it.
You're the one who wanted to be a solid.
You know what I mean? You've always wanted, and he even did, I think he said something like eat, drink, and all of that kind of stuff, and even said make love as well. And he's like, I know you wanted this. You know, I could write you a holosuite program. I could do this for you. I could sell you some collectible Vulcan softcore if you want.
What was it? Vulcan, what is it? Vulcan slave?
Love slaves.
Vulcan love slaves.
Vulcan love slave.
Brilliant. Love it.
What's that one he tries selling to Cisco? The pleasure maze, and there's a surprise in the middle of everyone.
Let's just hope it's a good surprise.
I see Quark as like when he starts fighting. Yeah, he is. He's like, have you know? I mean, the Shawshank Redemption's seen as like it's on everyone's top 10 list of best films. He is Red, isn't he? If you want something, he can get it for you. He's the guy that can get it for you. If it's a bit naughty, if it's a bit risky, he's the guy to go and see to get that kind of stuff. And I don't actually remember. I mean, there's a couple of times he does some risky stuff, Quark, but it's not that bad. And when he fights with Odo, and they're having that scrap where Odo breaks his leg, and he keeps going, fascist!
Fascist, I laughed at that. Fascist, yeah.
You fascist thief!
Fascist!
And that's exactly, he keeps saying it over and over, you thief, you criminal, you fascist. And
also, just Quark screaming is funny. Like, he has got an amazing voice to scream with. He really has, yes. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And he does that a few times. And that is I think he does it a few, that thing. You know, that kind of
Well, do you know what? It's because their ears are, to be fair, their like most sensitive part in it. So it's like for them, all they're trying to protect is their ears and their lobes.
Yeah, a one-eared Ferengi is half a man.
I like Quark's scream, and I like Rom's Moogie.
Yeah. What's that buzzing? What's that buzzing? It could be that. No, that's a hiss. I can hear a buzz. And I was like, imagine Ferengi tinnitus, man. That would be like horrible, absolutely horrible. But and his ears and his sense of hearing really comes through. He's like, that's one of the. Especially if you're in a quiet place and someone's slurping soup like that, and you just spin around and go, gonna not do that. Why?
Drink me brew, you. You shut the fuck up.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? It is exactly that. It's like just gonna not do that. Why?
Are you drinking that? I'm fucking chewing it.
It tastes better. It tastes better when you slurp.
They do. They just get on each other's nerves, and I think Quark uses a bit of reverse psychology to get him to open up. Like he says, "You're alive now," or something like that. He sees him as alive now. He was kind of dead before. He had no grounding to share a relationship with anyone. There was no common ground with anyone. Now he's got that. He's like, "You're alive now. Embrace it. Do all of this stuff. Have fun." And then just wind each other up, and they do wind each other up in that buddy cop movie style. I'll shut up now if you like.
They're two of the best characters in DS9, aren't they?
Yeah.
The only one missing from there. If you fit Garak in there somehow, you just I just watched that.
Brilliant.
We can't hear Patches. Patches, we can't hear you.
Patches, you're muted.
Can you not hear me?
Now
we can now.
Dan's got the master mute button, mate. He's got the master mute button.
Yeah, Patches, guess what? You're done. I like the bit where he's screaming, "We're gonna die." I'm dying.
I'm dying. We both are not dying.
And he actually looks. The makeup's quite good. Quark looks an absolute state in this. Towards the end, he really does look bad. And Odo with his hair all hanging out to the side, they really look like shit. And Quark, I can almost see the cold in his face. His top lip stops moving, and he's like,
really,
I've had no food. I've had nothing. I've had nothing to eat. I'm dying. Please. And when he just face plants and he's in the dust and he's like, just accept it. We're going to die. I pissed myself. I really did.
Oh, one thing I did pick up and I didn't say was how it looked like that communication thing they were carrying weighed about 1 kilogram, for God's sake.
Yeah, and it was like it was made of MDF.
They were able to just nudge it and it was moving around. And I'm like, come on, you could have done better with that.
Yeah.
What made me laugh is when he said, "You can't carry that and carry me." And he went, "Well, I need some food."
And do you know what? If that thing leaned over you with them spiky teeth and you die, I'll eat you.
If you die,
I'm gonna eat you.
They both look really, really knackered. And then there was that when it got really like there was a montage scene of Quark doing this, dragging him that way, then he's dragging him that way, and there's that orchestral overture as well that goes with it. I was like, this is quite beautiful, actually. Like honestly, I wouldn't do that for someone that isn't my friend. I wouldn't. I'd be like, I'll come back for you, man. Don't worry about it. I'll just take this thing and go. But I'll remember where you are. And that seemed like the logical thing to do. And he ended up having to do it in the end. But he did drag him for quite a distance as well. And that's something you would do for a friend, you know?
I think they did it. I think they used as many of those shots as possible because they were in that outside location and to try to make the best of it, you know, because they had at least something in the background is real.
So Armin Shimmerman, Quark, had me laughing. He had me pissing myself with that, you know, that wig. I'm dying. And these crumbs and there's no beetles with meat on them. I loved it. I loved it. And I loved the fact that he was that and Odo was the square. He was the straight. He was the stiff, the fascist that was just like, will you shut up and get walking? We need to get to the top of this thing. And when that valley opened out and it wasn't as quick as I thought, I know, oh God, I could do 6 hours more, but not 7, and then bang, 6 days. I was like, oh, brilliant, that's just brilliant. And Quark's face, and it's his face, it's just like, oh, I thought that was great. And it's not common for me to laugh for a Star Trek episode like this. It doesn't have me laughing out loud. This really did. And come the end of it, that end of episode banter, which is very original series, you know, that kind of, we showed those bastards this time, didn't we? We really showed those bastards. And that Kirk thing with McCoy and Spock, you had that kind of moment between that end of episode wrap up banter with Odo and Quark just laid there like, and that little grin at the end of it. All the way through from when Quark stuck his finger under Odo's nose.
Does that?
Yeah. Like,
brilliant.
Where do we have to go with that? We have to go up there, like the square root of 7 divided by up there. That's what I think.
I wonder if that was, again, I was talking about scripted moments.
Scripted or not.
Because it was such a brilliant. How would you even like script that? I want you to point, and then he puts his finger, because it would be difficult to even just conceptualize that. But it was such a small moment, but brilliant. It's one of those where you could almost miss it if you kind of glance away. But instead of just pointing, it does that. It points his face to it. That was a brilliant moment. Yeah, I think
that's a bit of an establishment of the fact that they are quite close. You wouldn't do that to someone that you genuinely don't like.
Yeah.
Because the minute they start putting their hands in your face, you'd be like, fuck off with that. But Odo kind of just looks up. So you can tell that there's something that, you know, at that point in time, it lets you know as the viewer of this episode that, you know, that it's banter. They don't actually hate each other. They're not mortal enemies here.
Yeah.
They're, you know, and there isn't.
You know that as a Trekkie. You know that. You know that. You can tell as a fan. You know they hate each other.
Well, you can tell. You can tell there's something on the
fan. You can see that anyway.
You can tell there's something underlying because Quark knows that Odo's got a thing for Nerys.
Yeah.
No one else seems to know, just Quark. And he says, shut up, you dickhead.
Yeah.
He gave him the Dick Fontaine programs and told him to take her there on a date.
Yeah. So, you know,
he started interfering in the beginning.
And he really does. He is like Red from Shawshank. He really does care. You know, there has to be a bit of profit in it for him. There has to be something.
He's a people person.
But he is. And he is, you know, Quark could be one of them person that does give Pucker gifts. Do you know what I mean? Because he listens to you. And not only does he know where to get stuff, but he will get you the thing that you want. He'll get you the root beer. He'll get you that Vic Fontaine program. He will get you the baseball card. He will, you know, get you the choice kit.
For a price. For a price.
An amazing price. Yeah. He does kind of have that. The station would be drab without him, you know. And Odo, what would he do? What would he do? He wouldn't really exist as he does without his nemesis. And Quark, I think he says at some point, you know, I need someone to keep me on my toes.
Yeah.
You've made, and I think later on in the series, he said, you've made me a pretty good crook because you're a pretty good cop. So there is that bond between them. And I don't think that Odo really wants to bang him up. He just wants to control him and don't go too far, Quark. That kind of thing. And I think that the fact that they save each other's life and they have that, and it is a bit of a touchy-feely relationship where he's turning his head and he's dragging him along. He splints his leg as well.
In that kind of way, like what Odo would do, trying to help Quark, is arrest him for something before he gets it. Before that charge would be 20 times worse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd be like, right, I will arrest you now, and you'll learn your lesson, and it's going to be for this kind of minor offence compared to where you would have gone. You would have been part of, I don't know, Obsidian Order.
Yeah, he does that a lot, doesn't it? And and often it's like, I've arrested you now. You'll avoid any charges if you tell me who else was involved.
Yes,
yeah.
And I think sometimes he does count on Quark to help station security or be an informer.
Yes, absolutely.
That kind of stuff.
And it's funny because it's never actually on screen. You don't see it, but it's definitely part of the relationship they've got, that they can help each other out in certain times. And that's why begrudgingly they will, have this relationship that has now blossomed into what we know as a friendship.
Someone went to Quark for a higher level of access than what they had to the system, and he's
that's right. Yeah.
And it's
I can't remember. Yeah, it's one of the episodes that we've done because they go to, I can't remember now, but Quark's got a higher level of access than Odo has. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got.
I think it was.
No, was it?
Hang on, I think it was the one where the station goes into lockdown because of the car. The tools episode.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And they get locked in the tool. They get locked in the security office, and
civil defense.
Quark has greater access than Odo.
Pension Bajoran workers. Yeah.
And I think Quark, he keeps all these high security isolinear rods, the Cardassian isolinear chips, in like a Tupperware thing under the bar where everyone can get to him. And every now and again he pulls one out, sticks it in, and starts, spying on everyone's secret documents and stuff like that. Odo knows that, and people know that, and they kind of give him a pass as long as he's not too much of a dick with it. And I love the way that that's assumed at the start of this episode when we see them. There's a bit of banter on you're human now, enjoy it, and all that kind of stuff. And then it develops on where they're in trouble, and that friendship is tested, and it's put under some serious pressure actually, and they don't abandon each other, and they don't leave each other to their fate. And they do appreciate that they're starving and they're hurting, and that bit where Quark loses the hearing and he's like, hello.
No, I do that. No, that is funny. I relate because I do that. I have to. When you have to blow your nose to like pop your ears, I've got to do that about 20 times a day.
Hello. Would you stop doing that?
And this is how I test myself. I go, hello. And so
didn't his makeup survive really well when he was doing that? I was expecting it to all start falling off.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
He's quite spongy, all of that stuff. I have noticed that it's not as bony as it looks.
Rashid, do you want to go next?
Yeah, okay. I think most people covered what I'm going to say, but the first thing was when Quark put the root beer in for Nog. I thought that was a nice touch because Quark was well against Nog joining Starfleet. Remember, he went against. He was really angry about it, and even sabotaged his exam, didn't he? Quark.
Yes.
Remember, and Rob's response to that was amazing as a father. I love that episode as well. Defending Nog.
He stood up for himself.
I'll see what I do to you. Robert stood up to Quark, So for Quark to come in with the root beer to show he's accepted that, that Nog is now starting to.
He also hates root beer, so that's again.
And when Rob had some, Quark was like, "What are you doing?" Personally, I think Odo, Quark, two brilliant characters in DS9, and them together, they seem to always be riveting to watch for me personally. But what I don't get is Quark's helped Odo a lot more than Odo's helped him, in my opinion. Quark's been a better friend to Odo, where he helped with Kira, after what happened with that, And when people talk about him behind his back, it's always Quark who stands up for Odo with other people. So when Odo says to him, "I've been waiting 10 years for this," I thought I think that's a bit harsh. What's that all about? You wait 10 years to put in jail after I thought you had a good friendship, but so I didn't quite understand that personally from my point of view, anyway, basically. But But the scenes with him on the runabout was so funny, absolutely brilliant. And Quark reading the erotic novel out loud. Isn't he a good narrator? It's like, wow. I'm like, what the hell?
I thought
Wow.
that. I thought, yeah, carry on with that. Read some more of that. We like that.
Patches was on zipping.
Toilet tissue.
But I want to say I got tingle, but still, I was like, what the hell? I got to say, how did Quark made it to the top? How do you do it? It's like near impossible. How high was that mountain from the bottom? It's like, wow, it's like Mission Impossible, but he did it somehow against all the odds, basically, which just shows how tenacious Quark is, you know? People think he's like weak, you know, not that strong, but he's got some balls in him. Like the way he stood up to Jabba with the two phases later on in the season, you know? But when he needs to get tough, he can get tough because he can really proper do it. So I thought that was brilliant from Quark, the way he got to the end. And obviously when Odo says, how did he get, when he found out that Quark saved his life, that was such a brilliant scene at the end. It was like, oh God, I was afraid you were going to say that. And it's absolutely brilliant.
I was afraid you'd say that.
But I'm going to agree with Steve a bit here. I want to watch this episode again. It's not one of my favorite episodes, I'm sorry to say. Basically, it's like, I watched it, I never go. I'll probably skip this episode in the future. I wouldn't watch it again. It's not one of my most memorable episodes, basically, but it was okay. It was okay, basically, but overall, I'll say it's an okay episode. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite. I look back on it and say, wow, I really, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But man, lots of good bits in it. Obviously, the scenes between Quark and Odo are always great to watch. You know, the banter, the name calling, the teasing, the taking the mick out of each other. That's great to watch. Even the hearing the bomb sound in a runabout is so funny. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Well, do you know what? I do love this episode. This reminds me of like a Mike Leigh film. I love Mike Leigh as the director, right? A lot of his films, there's no real story. Nothing happens, right? But by the end of the film, all the characters are in it. They're different to how they started, you know, just through the interactions and things like that. And this feels like that sort of episode. One thing that happens in this episode that you don't see a lot in Star Trek is when they're traveling, Odo and Quark, they're in a shuttlecraft for several days. And you just don't normally get that in Star Trek. Normally, they're like, that's it, we're there. Oh, we're going to take 4 hours, or we'll be there within minutes. And it was really refreshing to see a shuttlecraft journey that is going to take, was it a week or something like that? It's a long journey. And it's only a little shuttlecraft. It's not like some massive luxury thing. You know, it's like being stuck in like
when
a
you say
travel
little,
lodge.
though, it had quarters at the back, didn't it?
It did, I know, but still, it's not. If you're there for a week, it's not like it's, you know, you're not talking Starship luxury, are you?
Yeah.
It's still fairly small.
It does feel on Star Trek like they get everywhere really quickly, unless you're in the Delta
But
Quadrant,
it's not. Do you know, they don't
2 million
imply
years.
enough. Sorry, Steve.
I guess not. Normally there's
No,
transport or whatever, don't they?
There is a couple of episodes in The Next Generation. I think Picard's on his way back from some sort of symposium or seminar with
Crusher at one stage, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a few, but they just don't
George in the
imply it
Forge,
enough.
he
do
gets
they?
the Forge gets nabbed by the Romulans while he's on his way back from
All right then, I was
something.
wrong. It happens all the time, right? Okay,
Yeah.
but Patchy said earlier on that sometimes we're watching it, it'll be like, oh, so and so mentioned that, or it'll think of somebody. There's a bit of this episode that made me think of John Joe, and it's when they're in that shuttlecraft. I'm like, how much LCARS displays are there? There's loads. Honestly, every surface is covered in like these LCARS displays, and I thought, I bet John Joe's studied them. I bet he's like, oh, screenshot that, you know, because he's got his one in the background. But it just made me think of John Joe there, because I love the LCARS graphics. I just think they look absolutely amazing. Is it Mike and Dennis Okuda that came up with that? But I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the biggest contributions that anyone's ever made to Star Trek. So we've got, I've already mentioned this, which is Odo saying, I've been waiting 10 years to see you get what you deserve. Then later on, Quark says, you know, it's wasted 10 years of his life and it's basically a failure or whatever. And just to re-emphasize the fact that their relationship goes way beyond what we've ever seen. So obviously we've seen them from, you know, episode 1, season 1 of Deep Space Nine, but this is the 5th season, right? So we've only seen half of their relationship.
They do that flashback, don't they? There's a flashback, or 1 or 2 flashback episodes where you see Odo prior.
Prior to
And
tried
you
to
see
Deep
Quark
Space
on the
Nine.
station, yeah. But otherwise, yeah, we don't know nothing about their relationship.
Exactly, and I can imagine their relationship would have been even more strain during the
Yeah.
Cardassian rule, because it must have
Yeah,
been more difficult times, obviously. And I've got a note here that Quark may well be the biggest constant in Odo's life. You know what I mean? A life where you're
Yeah.
struggling to find yourself, and you've got this one person who's constant. I know you maybe like Kira, Dax. Well, actually,
Well,
no,
Kira,
not Dax.
not
Not
Kira
Dax, but
really, because she was part
that's
of
true.
the
She was in the
resistance, wasn't she?
Resistance.
So
Yeah, exactly.
Quark and Odo were on the station together at least a lot longer.
Exactly. So he may be the person he's got the longest relationship
Yeah.
with. I do love when they're insulting each other and such like. But one thing I did notice, and we've mentioned before when we're talking about certain relationships within Star Trek, particularly Garak, it's that balance of power thing. Because Garak has always got like he's always above everybody else when it comes to what he knows, and he loves people knowing that. And I felt that in this episode, normally Odo's the one that's got power over Quark, right? Because he can arrest him, or I'm always watching you, that sort of thing. But it completely flips in this episode, and I don't think at any point did Odo have one over on Quark. Quark always had one over on Odo, but he never ever used it maliciously. He's always putting Odo at a disadvantage in terms of power play, but it's never in a nasty way. So Quark, when they're exchanging insults, Quark will slide in these like warm comments, like he's stretching out to to Odo. He's kind of like reaching out with that olive branch, and Odo never responds to it. And then later on, Quark uses humor, so he'll have a laugh with him, and you can see him. He's constantly throwing these little warm things in there. One thing that he says, and I think Jed picked up on this, is when he's basically saying to Odo, you're a miserable bastard, right? And I understand you're a miserable bastard, but now you're able to make love, you're able to eat, you're able to do all this. And while he's insulting him, but while he's insulting him, he's also giving him advice. And he says to him, the line he uses, he says, "You're not a changeling anymore, you're one of us." And it really does feel like that Quark is reaching out to Odo.
It is an honest thing, I feel. It is him being honest, and
And he's constantly offering Odo the chance to respond with some warmth. And I don't think that Odo doesn't, because he's just this miserable dour bastard that can't do it. He can't do it because he struggles with that emotionally. He just really struggles to connect with that. And but Quark doesn't, and he's always constantly throwing he's throwing him a bone constantly. Is the nearest you get to it from Odo is, and this reminded me of Devil in the Dark, where Spock thinks that Captain Kirk has been killed or something like that, and all of a sudden he stops calling him Captain and he shouts, "Jim, Jim," and he goes mental. This reminds me of that, where Quark falls over and Odo's like, "Oh my God, are you all right? You all right?" And then when it's clear that Quark is all right, it was just like, "Oh, he's just making sure that the equipment's all right that you're carrying," But
I
but
think
it wasn't that.
when he's hitting him,
and
to
when
wake
he
him
thinks
up.
he's died in his sleep.
When he thinks he's died in his sleep.
Yeah, because he's actually scared. Like Odo is scared at that moment. Oh my God, I'm on my own. I can't deal with this on my own. So he's hitting him because he's desperate. He needs Quark, in that time.
He does. And in his own way, shows a bit of warmth when, I mean, we see it as a viewer when he's hitting Quark. He's not hitting him because he's like, "Just wake up, you lazy bastard." He's hitting him because he's like, Quark, and he
Oh my
he thinks
God.
he's
And
dead,
as much I
he's
feel as
panicking.
much as this because, oh my God, Quark, don't be dead, it's because he's terrified for himself, isn't he? That's how I felt about the character in that moment.
A, he doesn't want him to die, and B, he is terrified for him because he will be on his own then, and Quark is his best chance of survival. And the other bit is where he offers Quark his rations, or what's left of them, the crumbs, But he does offer them to Quark, and that felt like a big moment. But I think that's pretty much all I've got to say, because my main thing about this episode in terms of Quark and Odo is Quark constantly showing warmth to Odo, and Odo not reciprocating because he doesn't feel he can reciprocate. And I wonder, because I've often heard it said that people who are neurodivergent and struggle with emotions and things like that really warm to characters like Data and to Spock, because they are characters who have obviously challenges when it comes to emotion. And I'm wondering if anybody ever gets that from Odo, because he is a character who has emotions, but he really struggles with them because of his past relationships. He struggles to trust people, and he struggles to open up to people. And I think he hates the fact that Quark has got stuff over on him. He knows that he's got feelings for Kira. And when it turns out that Quark actually kind of occupies moral high ground in this episode because he's actually there as a star witness to something. It crushes Odo because Odo was like, oh no, it would have been much easier for him if Quark was, some master criminal. And there's that bit where I know people have said, oh, Odo gets one over on Quark because he gets him to reveal, why he was there. To me, I don't feel that. I don't feel that Odo did get one over on Quark. I still feel that Quark still is getting one over on Odo because it's revealed then, and Quark realizes that Odo doesn't know anything about this. So again, is it more information that Quark's got that Odo doesn't have? And throughout this entire episode,
when Quark tells him that, I think it's more of a ha, because you can see Odo's real disappointment, and he's gutted. It's like, are you serious? That's it. I was expecting a lot more than that.
So I do love this episode. I love watching Odo and Quark's relationship, and I like I say, there's so much warmth flowing from Quark to Odo. Maybe not as much the other way around, but it is there. But I think that's Quark's character. Somebody, I can't remember who said it. I think several people have said it. Is a people person, because the truth is, he is a failed Ferengi, right? He's not a big successful Ferengi. He's got a pub in Deep Space Nine. You've got other Ferengis that have got these businesses that are massive, and it's got loads of little side hustles going on. But ultimately, it's got a pub on Deep Space Nine, which is full of Federation crew who don't even really have money, and they've got replicators anyway. So it is kind of a bit of what he's got there is a bit of a distraction for people, and it's not some massively viable business that's going to make him, millions of bars of, gold pressed platinum. And
do you think he's failed, Dan, because of his love of the Federation, or do you know what I mean? The fact that they've got to him, or he's not a complete bastard.
In terms of how Ferengis would define success within their culture, I think he's a failure. But I think Quark likes where he is. I think he likes the fact that he's mixing with all these people. I think he likes the interactions, and I think he's genuinely fond of the people around him. Surely there must be other bigger, better opportunities, available out there. But I don't think he wants to leave the likes of Odo and Dax and Morn and O'Brien and Bashir. These people that he interacts, I think he genuinely, enjoys all that. One thing that you mentioned, you said it'd be great if we had an episode with Odo and Quark and Garak. In the episode, I forgot the name of it now, that we covered not that long ago. Way the Warrior, where you've got Garak and Quark. I really wish we had more moments between them two. I really do. Honestly, I can't really think of many. In a way, maybe it's good that we don't, because the few that we get are so special, because they are quite similar in character. The difference is, because they're both people who operate in the shadows, they've got knowledge about everybody. Those two, if they wanted to take down Deep Space Nine, they could, just between them, right? They hold so much power over everybody in terms of what they know about the ship and about the people on it. And Garak would. Garak would do that, but I don't think Quark ever would. I think Quark would use his knowledge to help people, to assist, to defend. And I do think that at his core, he is a genuinely decent bloke, and that's why he kind of fails as a Ferengi, but he succeeds in so many other ways. I mean, by the way, I mentioned at the beginning, I think he's brilliant in this episode. He's superb in this episode because we talked a lot about the stuff that he's done that's funny, right? Because a lot of his stuff is funny. He's got some really hilarious moments. But to me, his best bits aren't the funny bits. It's when he is talking to Odo and he is kind of... It's really difficult to explain, but it's really nuanced acting. It's proper acting. It's not like,
one of my favourite scenes
this about you.
Yeah, one of my favourite scenes in all of Star Trek is Armin Shimmerman, and I think he's talking to Nog, and I can't remember the episode exactly. I can't remember the name. Brush will remember the name. And he leans into Nog's ear and he goes, these Starfleet types that you love, that are so principled, you wait until they get hungry and you take away their holodecks and you take away all of their creature comforts and you put them under strain for a few months.
Yes. That's when he loses his leg, isn't it?
That's a search.
Yeah. He loses his leg episode.
Yeah. And he says, your Federation friends, these humans, will become as savage as the most brutal Klingon, like that.
Yeah,
Don't
great
forget it. And there's no comedy in that. He's just like a word to the wise here, Nog. These people, you don't know these people, and when they're stressed out, when they're really strung out, they can turn like nasty.
And great scene.
Yeah, and I think Armin Shimmerman was probably the only one that could have said that. And I think the Ferengi are in their own way, and you can see that they are they see themselves as much more cultured and refined than most other species, because the way it's played in DS9, they're not bloodthirsty. They don't snap. They're always consistently looking for an angle, and all right, you could say they're snivelly.
Yeah.
But they're also benign. They're not violent.
They rewrite Ferengis because when Armin Shimon appears as the Ferengi, one of the Ferengi in TNG, where they are like, like creatures, and they are kind of like really this two-dimensional kind of shit, backwards characters. And whereas Armin Shimon in this plays this quite very intelligent, very articulate character, and we realise through Rom that they're actually incredibly intelligent, and Nog as well.
And
but it wouldn't surprise me if after this episode, and we don't see it obviously because it ends with them on the hospital beds kind of smiling, if Odo receives from Quark a gift of some holosuite program, of his erotic novel, and it'd be a case of, do you know what? No one's ever going to know about this. It's up to you whether you use it or not, but this is yours. And it wouldn't surprise me if he did that as a little final.
I'm quite looking forward to Armin Shimmerman coming over to Blackpool.
Me too.
Actually.
Yeah.
Me too. I met him in Germany. He's brilliant. Guys, I'm going to go. So good to see everyone. Take care, everyone.
See you, mate.
Rashid.
Yeah.
See you later, Rashid.
See you later, Rashid.
Bye, bye.
In regarding to Quark and the Ferengi, I'd never really connected to them when I was younger, when I first watched Star Trek. As I've got older, I relate to the Ferengi so much, and every single Ferengi episode, strong episode, I think they are the best you can get. Anyone that's led by Quark or any of the Ferengi, I can watch them over and over again.
No, I completely agree. I think Quark's my favorite character in Deep Space Nine when I was a kid, but it's because he was this little devious kind of funny goblin fella. Whereas now I love him for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people relate to the fact that Ferengi are expected to conform to a certain societal,
archetypes.
codes. Yeah, exactly. And they don't want to do that. Rom doesn't do it. Nog doesn't do it. Quark is the nearest to it, but he doesn't want to do it either. Which is why they're kind of failing as Ferengi, but they're succeeding in massively as people. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Humans.
Oh, one thing I just want to mention quickly, I'll slide it into what I said before, is when I was on about Quark and Odo and Quark occupying the higher ground. When Quark's talking to Odo, it's Odo that descends to childish insults. He calls Quark at one stage an idiot, and it's really quite childish. And he gets in the old and I'm going to deliberately slop my food or whatever. And he is really, really childish. And Odo doesn't come across as that great this episode, to be honest.
No.
Quark does. Odo doesn't.
That's what I feel.
Odo
They
very
try,
rarely
because he's a
comes
solid, they kind of overemphasize he's got, it's almost like he's learning human characteristics and playing with them a bit. And
I don't think I could stand to be around Odo very much. I could definitely chill with Quark. I could.
Yeah.
But I don't think after a few minutes with Odo, I'd be like, you're boring.